Okay, we're recording. Grab a seat. Okay, first thing is I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. We've got all our normal features, including show and tell, deal and dud, ask the experts, things like that, as well as a terrific clinic put on by Mr. Jim Ogden, moving the mail to Texas. So I'm sure you're all looking forward to that. I also want to thank Mike Walters for his clinic on scratch building a passenger station. And I want to also ask, do we have any new members or visitors with us today? I thought we had one. Where's Garfield at? John Garfield, where's Garfield? Garfield, do you have a guest? Do you have a guest? Do you have a guest? Okay. You want to introduce him, or you want him to introduce himself, or you want me to guess?
This is speaker on.
Yes.
This is real simple. This is my son-in-law. He's not a model railroader, but he's joining me today just to see what's going on.
Well, welcome to the meeting, Pete. It's Pete, right? Okay. Welcome to the meeting, Pete. As always, I want to thank David Crumpton in the Texas Western for letting us meet here. And David, do you have any announcements?
Good morning and welcome to the Texas Western. It's always good to be able to host the Division I meeting. We're glad that you're here. Just one announcement. Thank you for coming to our garage sale. It took us 2 Saturdays to do it because of bad weather on the first Saturday, but many of you came to our garage sale. We really, really appreciate that. Next thing is we usually have a fall garage sale. Last year we did it in October and it was like right after the train show and we felt like we just wore ourselves out. So we decided to do it earlier. So our next garage sale that we would call our fall garage sale will be in August. So mark that on your calendar. We'll give you a date as it gets closer, but the next garage sale is going to be in August. Guys, it seems like every month we get in donations. So there will always be a lot of new stuff to look at. So mark that on your calendars. And again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, David. Okay, David Coranda, who do we have attending on Zoom? Bob Mangrum, thank you very much for attending. Bob Burnett, good to have you. Mr. Gradke, good to have you. And the Trainmeister's with us again. Welcome. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay, David Grind, Treasurer's Report.
Yeah. I really don't know why I have to do this,
Because you're the treasurer.
but because I just read what I sent to the newsletter. So our opening balance was $4,146. We had receipts of $90. We had expenditures of $794 with an ending balance of $3,442. And our certificate of deposit currently stands at $23,694. Questions? Good. Done.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. I want to give everybody an update on we talked about the benevolent committee last month, and I had explained to you that we're opening up a checking account, and that checking account is open for the committee. We also were looking to put 3 members on the committee, and I've gotten 3 volunteers for it. So that's all set. So I want to kind of go over the guidelines of the committee, the rules or the kind of guidelines that are going to be operating under. And We've got it up on the screen. First thing is it's called the Benevolent Committee of Division I Lone Star NMRA. The mission and vision is, whereas continued social interaction with friends and colleagues have been shown to be a positive benefit to the physical and mental well-being and longevity, the committee's mission shall be to provide a mechanism for continued or new NMRA membership and thus participation in NMRA activities for existing or potentially new members who experience financial constraints that preclude renewing or initiating membership. The committee membership will consist of 3 individuals, 2 of which must be Division I LSR NMRA members. Members are appointed by the division director, and members of the committee will remain anonymous. The committee shall maintain a financial account separate from that of division. The committee shall maintain a 5013C status, and disbursements require the signatures or authorizations of the division director. Referrals to the committee can be made to the division director or may be an anonymous referral or self-referral. Disbursement. The committee shall have the option of providing funds for full or partial costs of NMRA membership. Payments shall be made directly to the NMRA office. Donations to the fund will be voluntary, and the committee once a year will present a report which will be shared with the membership that will provide the division board of directors a report of all the activities, including yeah, I need the rest of it. Including funds raised, number of individuals assisted, the proportion of NMRA dues paid, and disbursement paid without naming the individuals benefited. So we already have received a few donations to the fund, and the fund is open for donations. Donations should be directed to either David Grine or myself, and we'll put it in the fund. Are there any questions? Okay. Okay. So that's where we stand. A couple other announcements. Daylight, just to help the division out and to help division out, you can, just a reminder, you still can purchase shirts and other material from Daylight Sales. Every time when you buy a shirt, polo or long sleeve, whatever, with the Division I logo on it, we get some money back from them. So I want to encourage everybody to go to the website. I think it's daylightsales.com. Look and see what they have. If you need something, order it. Mike Mackey. That's true. And another thing I want to announce, today is May, and usually new elected members take effect in the month of May. So I'm entering my last year of being division director, and it's been a pleasure serving Division I, but I will not be running for re-election. And so I'm asking for you, the membership, to think about who would want to be director. And I'm happy to give them some coaching and explain the job to them and to make sure the transition is easy and simple as possible. So just keep that in mind. Don't all jump up at once to volunteer to be director. It's 2 years. May of next year. Yeah. Yes. Okay, upcoming, let's talk about upcoming events. Just a reminder, the Model Train Jamboree is going on in San Angelo this month, or this weekend. We have an LSR convention coming up June 18th to 21st in Austin at the Wyndham Garden Hotel. And the website there is connections2026.com. We also have the NMRA convention coming up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, July 27th through August 2nd. And then in late August, there is the 53rd annual Austin Train Show. It's sponsored by the Austin Model Railroad Society, and that's at the Palmer Event Center. In September, we have the Temple Model Railroad and RPM show sponsored by Central Mod in Temple. And the details of all these activities or all these meetings, conventions, whatever, are on the website, cowcatcherdivision.com. You can see all the details and there are links there for that. One other announcement, or to bring everybody up to speed, we've been talking about the Promote the Hobby Committee. And a couple of months ago, I reported that we had the acrylic base or the acrylic cover completed. And Dwayne has completed the wood base to it now and has it with him right now. And Daryl is going to scenic that and we'll put it in the in various libraries around the area. And Daryl, do you want to cover the potential scenes that we're going to be putting in there? It should be. Talk louder.
Jim and I, just saying, okay, this is what I want to see in the picture. And basically, I put a.
Hold on. He's going to fix your microphone for you.
So I talked to ChatGPT and Gemini and just gave it some instructions about what I wanted to see. So this is an idea. Now we have an 18 by 30 inch footprint to do this in. The box is about 2 foot, was 18 inches or 2 foot high, something.
18 inches high.
Inches high. So the theory here is that I'm trying to depict a small town, maybe a rural town, with a grain silo in the back, train coming through it, obviously, and some small town buildings and things like that along the highway. I think we can do some of that. Show the next one then, would you do? Uh-huh.
You want that bigger scene? Can I make a small bit?
Would.
Those big blue cars in the lower left, can we put them on the right side of the road?
So picky. Fine. Yeah, this obviously this is just an idea. Yeah. Yeah. I have one picture of Jim.
I think AI missed the boat on that one.
Yeah. I had one that I generated, and it put a grain boxcar at the grain silos with just the track under it. That's it. It was a permanent fixture apparently. So I thought, okay, that's not gonna work. If we did this picture probably, or this type of scenario, I would want to put in a second track that curves and goes into the granary, okay, to be loaded or unloaded there. So we'd have like a spur siding that rolls across the street into the grain. David, you want to show the next one? This one's similar, got an old gas station, kind of like this. It's got a little motor court behind it, which we used to see a lot of in the 50s and 60s. Same thing here. We've got a double track. The inside track there would go to the grain silos. This road I'd make a little bit different and have it come out and cross to the front of the scene, and have it do a grade crossing right there. One of the things I've my little crazy brain thought up is on the grain silos, I'm looking for a small solar panel. It's about a 5 or 10 watt solar panel that I can inset into the top of the silos so it's not as noticeable. And then I can power lighting in the buildings through that. Put a battery in the grain silos themselves, and then it would power lights in the buildings, which would make it much more eye-catching in a library scene or whatever. So this is just a couple of the scenes that I've kind of thought up. Any comments on that or any other suggestions other than the cars on the right side of the road? Cool. All right.
Daryl,
We'll get to work on it.
both those scenes look great.
Okay.
Now, next step on this is we're going to do the diorama, and we've got a couple of libraries already lined up to put the scene in. But one thing we do want to do is put a QR code on the outside of the acrylic case that will lead someone who scans it to a special page of cowcatcherdivision.org.
Yeah, we've got the QR code already set up, and it's a dynamic code, which means that we can change where it directs people to. But we need one on our website that specifically it lands on there, and then it says, "Hey, interested in becoming a model railroader?" And here's clicks to NMRA. Here's click to the rest of our website, the division website, and some other maybe some manufacturer websites as well. That lets them kind of look around and see. And then maybe one that's just full of pictures from all of the local layouts.
So that's the vision that we are trying to incorporate into this thing. But neither Daryl nor I nor the other members of the committee have any web experience. So we
Nope.
need someone with web experience to work with Daryl and the committee to develop this. So I'm looking for a volunteer. All you web guys, all you computer jocks, here's the chance to shine. Okay. Probably. Someone's got to have a friend that knows web design pretty well too. So can you make any suggestions or talk to me after the meeting with some suggestions? Okay. Think about it. It's desperately needed because we got a lot of time and effort in this, but it won't do us any good unless we have a good website or a good page to go to with some great links. Okay. I'll tell you what, I want to go back to Bob Mangrum and Bob Barnett and see if they have any comments or anything. Let's start with Bob Mangrum. Good morning, Bob.
Hello, how are you?
Very, very well. Hey, great whistle today, or great whistle this month.
Thank you.
Any questions for the group or any comments on the meeting?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Bob Barnett, welcome to the meeting again. It's always good to have the LSR president with us.
Thank you. As of yesterday, I intended to be there in person, but unfortunately, two things came up that prevented that, including a delivery of lumber this morning to my place. So you guys are doing everything right. I applaud your efforts, particularly the charitable one you just did, and what you're doing is exactly what NMRA is wanting the divisions to do. So thank you.
Okay. Well, you're always welcome. We'd love to see you up here.
I will get up there this year.
Say it again.
I will get up there this year. I promise.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you for attending. Okay, so let's go into divisional AP announcements. Okay, Mackey, Mr. Mackey.
Quick acknowledgement and congratulations to two of our members, Dr. Mike Ross and Dr. Mike Walter, for being featured in Cowcatcher magazine this month as cover shot in an article that recognized both of their layouts. So congratulations, guys.
Way to go, guys. Dwayne?
Yes, sir. Okay. Do not see Dan or Wyatt with us this morning, but I have their golden spikes. I got lucky. I was digging through a box that I got from Al Booz 13 years ago when I took over the AP and managed to find a few more golden spike paper certificates laying around. But I do have one for Juan. One for Juan.
Well, way to go, Juan.
Congrats. So these are the last of the official certs. The new ones now we've got all the artwork and we're printing them off. I'll bring these back next month. So Dan, Wyatt, if you're listening in, you missed. Coming up, there's some more discussion going on. Nothing's been made official yet, but they are talking about expanding the AP as we've discussed before. Don't know if that's going to come to fruition yet or not, but I'll definitely let you all in on it as soon as we hear something new on it. But We do have merit award, just individual model merit award certificates. I don't know how many of you have gotten those in the past or are even interested in those. I know some guys like them, some guys don't, but we do have those in the new format now. I was kind of holding off on printing these until we had those in the new format. But since we don't yet, and I managed to find a stash of the old ones, then we'll just do it this way. But the new one they're proposing is around building modules. So there's a great number of folks now that with society moving more towards apartment living, and if you're not living inside the US, your houses are really, really small in most cases. And a lot of guys don't have room to build the large layouts that we are fortunate enough to build around here. And this is going to be an opportunity for them to build some layout and actually make some progress in the AP. There is no intention at this point of moving the goal line. So it's still 7 certs get you MMR. Just where this falls, they haven't really talked about that part yet. There's still some debate going on with it, but as soon as we know something, I'll let you all know. There's also some discussion around a possibility of making one for electronics. And so things like animations and layout control and things of that effect. However, most of us are saying, but all of that should be covered under electrical. So we'll be adding some things around dead rail and stuff like that anyway. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but we should have the national AP chair attending the LSR this year. At least that's his game plan so far. So we get a chance to talk with Ray some while he's down and get a chance to introduce him to everybody if you want. But that's pretty much all I've got at this stage, other than to say the same thing I say every day. Put pen to paper, take a look at what you've got, see what we can come and evaluate. If you need to have us come out to the house, get a hold of Mike, get a hold of me. We'll make arrangements to get out and take a look at what you got, bring it up here. We're going to be evaluating this little piece of show and tell equipment here in a little while, but and you're welcome to hang out and watch us do that. I really do encourage that kind of stuff to get an idea of what it is we do, how we do it. And I would also invite each and every one of you, if you want to get involved with us in the contest room at the convention. If you're coming to the convention and you really want to get involved in this and you really want to get better at your craft, come in and learn how to judge in the contest room, because it's going to teach you how to look at a model in a way you've never looked at it before. And I know Dick's done it with us a couple of times now, and Russell's done it with us a few times, but it will really help you out and really open your eyes up. So, but give some thought to it. And if nothing else, as I always say, get involved in the AP because it will make you a better modeler. So, thanks.
Dwayne, before you leave, do you have a tip or trick for us?
Don't bet on slow horses. Nothing overly new. I will say this, it is official. Hobby Lobby is no longer carrying basswood or balsa wood. So we're all looking for new sources. This is really hitting me really right now because I need materials to make plaques and I'm having to mail order it because nobody has it locally. There's a place, it's Jerry's, I think, Artorama. They've got one just not too far from here. They've got another one over on the Dallas side, over on LBJ and Preston, and they have some. They just don't have as big a selection as what Hobby Lobby used to carry. So if you're looking for maybe for now, it looks like they're getting rid of it too. Hobby Lobby also went through their craft paint department and they've stopped carrying the Deca Art brands. So ceramic coat, things like that. They've also stopped carrying the Vallejo paint. So that was always a good source to find a few of the basic colors, and especially like clear varnish, because use that a lot for, like a clear coat, for a like a dull coat replacement if you just need to get in with a brush and touch something up. But they stopped carrying that. So you're down to Hobbytown with probably your best source for those because they've got a pretty good selection of that sort of thing. So, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Mike, you had your hand up. Did you want to add something?
Category theory, and people can get that, and that's how you got to.
Do not know. Do not know. It's one of those, they've not made it official. They're going to do this yet. So, and they've not decided where it's going to go just yet. Yeah. And that's the thing too. I mean, and that's been a common complaint, and having this in here would be kind of helpful. I do admit, there has been a lot of pushback on it though, because they are saying that everything that you're going to put on this module is already covered in all the other areas. Right now, last I looked, the requirement was going to be you had to build at least 3 modules of at least 2 foot by 4 foot, I believe it was. And they have to be displayed in at least 3 NMRA sponsored events in the course of, I believe it's 18 months. So something like that. So it's reachable if they put it in, depending on what the other requirements are going to be. But beyond that, I don't think anything else has been decided yet. So more to
Okay.
follow.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Dwayne.
I've not heard of anything just yet. We've been doing a little bit of testing. One of the guys over in D3 actually sent a note through it to confirm that his model did merit, and I did answer that one. I do need to get with Speed and get it set up again. They sent me an invite, but then they sent it to me on email. And if y'all ever mention email to any of your grandkids, watch them roll their eyes like, geez, just text me. Sadly for me, that is the best way to get a hold of me, but they sent me an email, and I look at my email like once a week. If I'm lucky, I have the time to look at it once a week. So I missed it because if you don't get it in the next 24 hours, the link expires kind of deals. So I've got to get with them and have them resend it to me so I can help them start testing it. But it should be coming soon.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne. Okay. Let's go into the question and answer period. We got 50 experts in the room here that can help you with any problem you're having with your layout. And I see one hand up. You're not volunteering for the website design, are you? Oh, Dave Steckler.
I have several questions regarding a passenger station that I'm building. I'll start with the easy one. I bought a number of pre-wired LED lights. The wire is 30 gauge. The wire strippers I have don't go down to 30 gauge. I know you can buy strippers that go down to 30 gauge, but is there anything else I can use rather than these wire strippers? Fingernails? Problem is I don't have fingernails. I bite them off. So, and owe her something seriously, Mike. Let's keep thinking. All right. Scrape with X-Acto. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you on that one. Okay. Now the more complicated ones. I'm going to be adding LED lights to a station platform. And I'm going to have ultimately 12 LED lights on the station roof. And wiring, I was going to have 2 strips of brass. Each LED has its own, a red and green wire. All the reds on one strip, all the greens on another strip, and then 2 wires going to a single resistor. I know some people say you should have a resistor for each light. It can be done. It's not practical for the way I want to do. So here's my question. All right, question number 1. In terms of figuring out what resistor, first, is this considered parallel, series, or does it not matter in determining what resistor to use? It's parallel. Okay. In determining what resistor I need, there are a number of calculators online. I use the one from engineering. So I want to make sure I did this properly. Each of the bulbs uses 20 milliamps. So if I've got 12 of them, that's a total of 240 milliamps. Is that correct? I mean, I know 12 times 20 is 240, but I want to, so I've got a supply voltage of 12 volts. That's my input. The operating voltage for the lights is 3 volts. So that leaves me 9. All right. Putting it into the calculator, it recommended the 37.5 ohm resistor with a resistor wattage of 2.16 watts. All right. So I know I can buy a 40 ohm resistor. That's not a problem. The question is this: what's too small? You're gonna need to drop the voltage because there was just one LED, but we're gonna have the wattage. The wattage is probably correct, but 1,000 or so ohms, I think is the way it's at. Okay. And you don't have 5. That's Radio Shack.
Resistors though, I haven't. And I would hook it up before you ever put it in the model, make sure that's correct.
Okay, yeah, and Mike Walter's done the same thing and it offered it as well. And this had a calculated resistor wattage of 2.16 watts. Okay.
Right,
Yes,
but
Mike.
the wattage is gonna be what you need, you're gonna be pulling all that current through.
Mike,
I would. Is the brightness of the LED within the range that it will function. And NMRA came out in the magazine many years ago to build a tree with resistors of different values arranged in a sequence so that all you do is touch the LED to the various resistors until you find the one that gives you the brightness that you're interested in without blowing out the LED.
well, that would also depend on what
And so
what your voltage in is, wouldn't it? Okay.
and you choose the resistor that gives you the correct brightness.
The 1,000 that I quoted. Part of what Mike's talking about is that the same voltage coming across makes a yellow different brightness than the red or green, so that's. Yeah, these are soft white. Soft white, yeah. But I would think that you're gonna need.
Okay. All right, if I have additional questions, I'll just reach out to you all individually, so. Okay, thanks, everybody.
So we can call you Mr. Radio Shack now, Harold? Okay. Okay, anybody else, any questions? Everybody's layout is running perfectly. Trains aren't stalling. Switch machines work. No shorts. Okay. And how about anybody else have a tip or trick? Hey, we got a dead group today. Okay. Show and tell. Russell. Steele, you're next.
That's something down here. There it is. I'm working on my AP. I think after the convention, I should have enough cars to get my AP for cars. I like things that are different. This is a scratch build. Saw a model like Cowawingo or Cowabunga or something like that. It's a tool car, and I didn't particularly like your tool car, so I just kind of did what I wanted to with it. Everything is scratch on this except for I used the square piece of lumber out of a flat car thing I had. I bought a lot of scrap stuff. I went to the train show there at the market hall and I bought a bunch of stuff for like $1 a box. It had all kinds of stuff. But anyway, it's all scratch built. The tank you see on the back, yeah, I made that out of a piece of sheet copper that I soldered together and made a tank out of it. I tried to patina it using acid, but it didn't work out too well, so I just painted it. The interior, it's got a little toolbox, a little chair, the table, I mean, some oxygen acetylene bottles, some chain oil drum in it. Got some cross ties on the front, and the planks are kind of individually laid down for the top of the deck of it. And you, of course, I always hear this all the time. It's too dark, but I like dark, so just live with it. The brake system scratch build except for the cylinders. Those are some scrap stuff I got somewhere. The trucks on this is kind of cool. I'm sure y'all built Ambroid models. These are actually live springs.
Oh,
Live
wow.
spring suspension. Another thing, I got a whole bunch of stuff up. The paint on it is my typical start off staining everything with oil, alcohol ink. Then it's probably got I don't know, 15, 20 layers of paint. What I do with the paint is I'll start off with the base color, and then as I come back to it, I'll add a drop of white or a drop of gray to it to help simulate fade or wear or things of that nature. And on the roof section of it, actually put cinders on top of that, which I take a number 2 pencil and kind of grind it down and put a little bit of dull coat on it and sprinkle it on it while it's still wet, so it kind of sticks to it. Anyway, that's about it. It's a joy doing these scratch things is that my imagination kicks in, not really using a set of blueprints. I kind of built this as I went along, and I use this model actually when you're doing a contest model. I got a passenger car, actually a power car I'm doing right now. I had to get away from it for a little bit because I did too snowblind. So much going on. I had to back off of it for a little bit. So did this as a distraction actually to get away from that for a little bit. Because I got 3 cars I'm putting in LSR and also in Nashville. And I'm trying to make them really, really good, but sometimes you got to back off of them because it gets a little bit, you got to step away from it. You know, I get a lot of help from Dwayne, and a lot of other guys. I'll call and say, what do you think? What do you think? Which helps the process, because when you're doing something like this is fun. Contest battles, you're really wanting to get everything just perfect on them, because I look for the criticisms. Actually, I do, because it look at it and go, we should have thought about that in the process of building this one here. Once again, it's just a matter of just, I like something looks and just start putting something together. And if it didn't work, I've got a trash can full of stuff. So this one's got salvaged from the trash can. I think this will probably run behind one of my 2662s on the HO side. It is HO, it's not narrow gauge. And I'm diving off in narrow gauge stuff, which is insane. But anyway, that's it.
Very good, Russell. Thank you very much. Good job. Steele, did you have something?
A couple of y'all know that I'm a Katy fan. And when Rapido announced red and bicentennial GP40s, I jumped at it. The bicentennial is back there on one of those old placemats you may have seen at the train shows many, many years ago, along with the label on the box. So you can see the quality that Rapido has put into it, mechanism-wise and detail-wise. Little disappointed in the blue, but I can live with it. So back there for y'all to look at. Yeah. What is the time period on the G40? On the Katy, it was about 60, late 65, early 66. It was one of the first 645 prime movers as opposed to the Jeep 35, which was the 567. And Mr. Berger jumped at him. At the time, we thought, 3,000 horsepower on a railroad that rarely got above 45 miles an hour seemed like a bit excessive. But once he got the track program going, we were pacing Katy freight trains with Jeep 40s at 55 miles an hour. So that was pretty good. So,
Jim.
Last summer, well, I'll get up here. Last summer, for the club, I went through all of our rolling stock and got rid of all the plastic wheel sets. Careful here. And I was picking on Clarence, and I was putting in all of his gondolas, the actual axles, the whole thing. But then a month or so ago, I was looking at them and thinking, that doesn't look right. So I went through and basically I'll get that. I don't know where's that, but anyway, I basically took them all off of the axles just with a pair of pliers and a hammer. I'd actually put this on the table and hit it with the little brass hammer. And I've done 4 cars now clear full of these plastic wheels. I did paint some of them, just took a couple different colors of spray paint really high up and just covered them just so they weren't black. So it was just kind of fun. I did that, just give me something to do and it was free. So just for everybody, that's a good free load for training. And Clarence at first was like, well, I wanted this, that kind of casting, but then he got to thinking about it. And I said, well, they had a lot of cast wheels back, 100 years ago. They had to switch them all out. So that what these could be. So he finally come around to my thinking. So. Well, I know. I just need you to tell me which cars you want and we'll put the correct amount in them. So that's all I got.
Okay. Very good, Jim. Anybody else on show and tell? Tom?
This is a tip and trick that came to mind after listening about sprung trucks. If in fact I really liked sprung trucks, the old Athearn ones and whatever, and KD's come out with them and they look great and whatever. But I found when you started operating that I ended up with some shorting problems because they were just a little bit too loosey-goosey. So the solution I came up with was to glue the bolster to the side frame on one side of the truck. So one side will still pivot with the springs and the other side's rigid. So just FYI, that worked for me in terms of making these cars operate as good as they look.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, anybody else on show and tell or tip and trick? Okay, let's go into deal or dud. Trapper, you want to come up here and do deal or dud? And once again, I want to remind everybody, Model Train Crossing supports us very well with all these gift certificates that we use in Deal or Dud. So when you go in there, please discreetly thank them for their gift certificates. Well, if you don't want to say, you know what? Yeah, you don't want to say, hey, I get this big gift certificate in front of a crowd of people in their room or in their store because everybody else may be saying, where's my gift certificate? Just be cognizant of the situation. Okay. Yeah, it's a well-stocked store. Yeah. All right. Have Crumpton pick the first one.
This line old man. 6581.
What's the number again?
Look at there.
581. 581.
658. That's it.
Don, what do you want? What box?
Number 2. I got the blue one.
Medium. Medium.
Next Sunday, we're getting number 4 on it.
Maybe.
Good go.
So we got a $15 gift certificate from Discount Model or from Model Train Crossing. Model Train Crossing.
6558. Yes, I keep
it right behind. Yeah. That house it anymore.
Let's check his number. He's kind of a shady character.
talk about it. Yes, sir.
I'm gonna take 3 because it's gonna be a dead. All right. Go. 4, $5.
He gets a $25 gift certificate.
$6560.
No,
6560.
that's me. Put it back in, draw another one.
Oh, boy, then I'll let you both.
6553.
Oh, there you go.
Don't bring the dollar and win. Yes. Here's one.
No, which one?
I'm not used to winning anything ever. Okay. There. Duds.
Dealer duds. He's got the milk duds.
Six five, 6-5. Oh, he does good, man, doesn't he?
Mike, would you like the blank blue box? Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's take it's about 10:45, so let's take about a 15-minute break. We'll start with our clinic at 11 o'clock. Everybody, and I want to introduce Mr. Jim Ogden. Welcome, Jim.
Ready when you are.
All right.
Okay, some of y'all were asking about the box of stuff I sometimes bring to when we have the Denton Area Model Railroad Club operating. We've got the modular layouts. I've got these boxes of stuff that I've kind of come up with over the years, and want to talk a little bit about what those strange little box cars I've got in these boxes. Yes. Okay. But want to talk a little bit about what I'm kind of working on now. These are most of these things. Sometimes they're resin kits, sometimes they're plastic kits that I painted. Sometimes they're just out of the box. And one of the things I like doing with mail trains is you can have a mail car from just about any place, any road. And of course, the Mail and Express does not care that the color scheme doesn't match on the train. Now, since we're all in Texas, I'm going to talk a little bit about moving that mail to Texas. Let me go ahead and see if it was working before, and now it's. Well, the next slide then.
Technology.
Well, it worked before. Now it's doing some crazy stuff. This is pretty much, there's always been a lot of mail and express that moved to Texas. Now, Texas, of course, has a central location, and there are numerous trunk line railroads that are going to operate. And of course, there's some large population centers. These also had a lot of people living there, of course, probably about 50 or 75 years ago. And of course, we can look at the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which only recently has become a metroplex. The Houston area and San Antonio, and there in the middle is Austin. You got kind of a triangle here. But there's several railroads that operated here, and I'm going to focus on some of the ideas that I have for some of the larger railroads. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's quit recognizing it. Okay, who are some major players? Obviously, it's going to be the Santa Fe. Of course, there was the Burlington, which around here was actually Fort Worth and Denver Road. And of course, they also associated with Rock Island in this kind of unusual relationship going down to Houston called the Burlington Rock Island. There's always the Missouri Pacific, Texas Pacific, and then Southern Pacific. And around here was Texas and New Orleans. Now, the thing is with the Southern Pacific, turns out there was not a whole lot of mail. There was express moving on, say, the Cotton Belt, but the Cotton Belt was one of the smaller players here. A lot of the stuff you saw in Texas was actually moving between, say, New Orleans and Houston and San Antonio that way. Next slide, please. Most of these trains had a pool of off-road equipment that'll work on just about any of these trains. So I've gotten online and gone to train shows and gone to hobby shops and acquired some of these different REA reefers, Railway Express Agency. Now, one of the funny things about reefers is not all reefers were necessarily carrying refrigerated loads. They could, but a lot of cases you'd actually have stuff that was regular express that was moving there. Now, I want to reiterate that Mail and Express does not care if the car has Penzi on the letterboard and you're on the SP. And of course, the Railway Express Agency was kind of like Trailer Train in that it was actually at one time different railroads had different shares that they paid into it, and they were expected to put some of their have a pool of equipment that went into it. Next slide, please. Now, who are some other players? Now, this is one of the things I'm focusing on recently is coming up with some stuff in Katy. There's I've got some of the 40-foot double door box cars that I've been working on with Katy, and the Katy Society has done a very good decal set for these things. Of course, Frisco, and of course, Kansas City Southern. People say, what? Yeah, they went down toward Port Arthur, or if you're from there, Port Arthur. Put it in the Cajun kind of way of talking. But you'd have all sorts of interesting mail and express that would go on these things. And of course, again, same rules apply. You'd have things on just about everybody showing up. Next slide, please. Now let's first look at the Santa Fe. Well, it's well known for its fast mail, which is the train that I was talking about. And before I twisted my ankle, I was actually going through my garage looking for my Santa Fe material. Steve Stanford actually did a phenomenal job on how to model this train. Actually came up with one of the jokes was he probably had half the Santa Fe heavyweight baggage cars in existence that he painted and detailed. In a lot of cases, using the old Lambert brass model, which is it was kind of outdated when they brought it in back in the 70s as far as detail went. Turns out this train only operated on what Santa Fe, or what we kind of jokingly refer to as the northern route via Albuquerque. It bypassed Texas and it went through New Mexico. Well, turns out in the Santa Fe, you had a remnant of the old California Limited, which is number 3 and 4, and it operated through Amarillo as the southern route. Now, by the late 50s, this had turned into a mostly mail and express train. Obviously, you're going to see the Santa Fe equipment on it, but then you find things from all the Santa Fe connections. And of course, there's certain obligatory cars you find in every train, like you're always going to find New York Central stuff. You're always going to find Penzi stuff. But then you have roads you're thinking, okay, that should be a competing road. Why is it there? Well, it was in the pool. It needed to go there. You know, they don't really. And of course, the poor, unfortunate soul riding in the rider coach. Anytime you hear the term coach on Santa Fe, you know it's not going to be a good deal because they like chair cars. They had very, very elaborate, very comfortable chair cars. If you're in a rider coach, you were probably put in a converted combine, and you'd be doing very well if you had the fillings in your teeth by the time you got to your destination. Next slide, please. Okay, so we all are familiar with the Texas Chiefs. Now, who in here has not had a Santa Fe war bonnet unit? Anybody? Okay. Okay, there are a few of you. Okay, well, that's one of the things, almost like it's a requirement that you're going to get your Santa Fe war bonnet. Maybe it's the Lionel, maybe it's Tyco, maybe it's Athearn, maybe it's Bachmann, but they have sold millions of these things. And of course, you all can recognize where that is. I was looking for a slide that actually showed some of the other railroads around there. I think this is colorized. The red looks just a little bit, can I use the word funky? Yeah, it looks kind of funky to me, but anyway, doesn't really look like the Santa Fe red I'm familiar with. But on this thing, yeah, one. Yes. And there we go back there. And of course, the thing is, it's just got one lightweight express car. Then, of course, by about 1960 or so, yeah, it's whole bunches of mail trains. And this is probably around 58 since I see the skirts have been cut back. Let's go to the next slide, please. So these mail trains tended to be stepchildren. So turned out the Santa Fe, they had something that got called the Texas Express. Now, there's a little bit of ambiguity about the timetables because you'd hear Texas Express and Chicago Express if you're looking at a Gulf Colorado and Santa Fe timetable. But if you're looking at the big Santa Fe, they were often calling it the Chicagoan or Kansas Cityan. Be that as it may, you're going to have all sorts of interesting head-end cars there. You're going to have the standard Santa Fe baggage car with operating, and you're going to maybe have some lightweights. If you got lucky, you may even see some of the more unique things on the Santa Fe. One of the things I liked about the Santa Fe is they were an operator of what's called a flexi van. Next slide, please. So why would you want to model anything on Santa Fe? Well, if you belong to a club that likes operating at these different kinds of shows, you always want to have something that's kind of a showstopper, and that's kind of fun to look at. One of the guys in the Denton group, he's got a thing about pasture trains like I do. We kind of talk about these things, and Chuck has I don't think Chuck has seen a pasture train he does not like. Reason one, war bonnets. I mean, I just love the way that war bonnet looks. Like the red paint, it's great, it's good, it's cool. All sorts of head-end equipment. Not only Santa Fe, but that of Connections. Now, one of the things that I like doing with the Santa Fe stuff, Santa Fe had a lot of Chicago traffic. And the thing is, if you want to use some equipment, I'm thinking, get some of these things that were there at the main Chicago station at the Santa Fe, which is Dearborn Station. Who are the other tenants? Chicago and East Illinois, Erie. Of course, you get a lot of New York Central stuff that would always come in. You also have an excuse to use a converted combine. That's the old AHM car. It was actually prototypical. That was rebuilt for number 7 and 8. Lots of boxcars and express service from many different roads would show up. You also had lots of troop sleepers that were bought by railroads at a significant cost savings after the Second World War, and were converted into boxcars, and they're very recognizable as being converted from troop sleepers. Next slide, please. Okay. Here's something odd here. Here's Pennsy stuff. Now, let me give you the backstory on this. These are Dick Kelb's photos. These operated down here on the mop. Y'all can probably recognize what that building is behind that X-29. Y'all know where that is? Yep, there we go. But again, this to me always seemed like it'd be a cool car to build there if you can actually get a 50-foot plastic roof, and the ends are available through branch line. And it was kind of fun until I found out F&C actually already had it available. So anyway, next slide, please. Now, this is that Santa Fe converted combine car. And these were, I want to say it was 4 of them. Somebody probably actually, wish we had another dent tonight. I wish we had Jim Nance with us. He'd be able to tell the numbers and all this kind of stuff. But again, these things were, you had to actually, it's a pasture train. You had to have some way for people to get from point A to point B. In a lot of cases, you'd take a whole bunch of, you'd have a briefcase with a bunch of stuff to sign, and you were told, get on the train, go to so-and-so, get this signed, and then come back. And, a friend of mine was joking about, I actually have the AHM car. I decided to paint it gray with a rattle can to show what it would be like in the late 50s. Even managed to get a special bolster to attach Walther's trucks to it. And a guy said, if you really want to operate it like the Santa Fe did, operate it with the baggage end facing toward the rear. Just really ruin the experience for whoever it is that's riding in the coach there. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, this is what you'd expect to see on a Santa Fe baggage and express car. There's no belt rail. They got that clear story roof. Lower side, that's actually a channel. Now, how to model? You can still find some of the old Walther's metal kits, and these had these stamped metal sides. Had rivets. I mean, we're talking about 1950s technology, but if you know what you're doing, these actually will build up very nicely. I had some that I picked up, and then I got the bright idea. I'm actually going to get the underframe that was sold by Branchline, now Atlas, for Pullman cars and put underneath. Because the thing is, the Walther's kits, they still have the idea that you had a completely square center sill on things, and you really didn't have a center. You did not really have they're more complicated than that. These are 50-year-old standards. Now, brass, you can go with Cowcatcher, Pecos River brass, or those very old Lambert. Now, Steve actually got a number of those Lamberts, and a dirty little secret I'm hearing from some of the people in some of the chat rooms is one of the manufacturers is wanting to do a Santa Fe standard. Of course, when you look at standards, there's really no standard. It's like, yeah, I see some of y'all laughing because you've been down this rabbit hole before. What you think is a standard is what that standard is for that little particular short window in time, and it may just only be 20 cars. And so we may be getting something in plastic. They weren't at liberty to tell who it was that they were supplying the information to. But anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. But I mean, if you can get the old Walthers kits, and I've seen them at these train shows, give me $10 to get it off my hands. I don't want to take it back. Now, of course, if it has a wood roof on it, you'll be going through some really interesting. Let's just say you don't be surprised if you invent some words that you never knew you knew yet, because it can be kind of challenging. But this is pretty much what you would see. Now, we were actually hoping Walthers was going to do a whole line of Santa Fe cars, and I was cleaning out, looking at old emails I had with the late Andy Sporandio, and he was up to his armpits trying to get Athearn to do a good set of heavyweights. And turned out certain components on their ACF baggage car could be used on this car, but he just was unable to convince the people at Walthers that it was worth their while. Next slide, please. If you're doing lightweights and you're doing Santa Fe, there's a lot more opportunities here. Now, Santa Fe had both Bud and ACF baggage and express cars. And this is the Walthers Proto. They've done it painted silver, plated silver. They've got kind of a subdued plated silver, all sorts of different things that you can get with that. I've seen the prices on eBay have gone up to where they're, at least in my opinion, unreasonable now. Also with Santa Fe, another thing that happened, and this happened to all railroads, is in the early 60s, the Postmaster General made a decree to the railroads that you quit giving us these junky beat to pieces baggage and express cars. Now, many of these things, they were heavyweights. They were operating in the Northeast. They'd have damage from the salt that was put on everything to melt the ice. So that if you're going to carry mail, you're going to wind up having new cars. And you saw economy baggage cars produced by, say, American Car Foundry and St. Louis Car. Everybody was doing that. All the railroads said, okay, we're going to buy it. We're going to be, it was like, let's say it's 1965. We're going to be in the passenger train business for at least the next 15 to 20 years. Let's go ahead and do it. And then Postmaster General, his brother-in-law had a trucking company, and they decided, okay, we're moving it all to trucks. And that led to the mail and express being taken off the railroads, and led to the precipitous decline in passenger train operations. But you can actually get the AHM smooth side baggage car. I've seen some of those very reasonable at model train meets. And those actually, if I remember correctly, are actually a model of a car built for UP, but they were an off-the-shelf design. Now, one of the things, some of these cars, you know, one of the things I'm excited and hoping we can get some of these by, say, Rapido, is they do these things in different scales as well. So, I mean, I'm more of an HO scaler, but I was talking earlier about N scale with David Rainey, and I said, you know, I'm not into N scale, but like the old song says, I ain't hip to that step, but I dig it. You know, it's kind of, they do some neat stuff in N scale now. Let's look at the next slide here. Now, this was something that really got people excited probably about 20 years ago. This is a plastic model. And I do have the Walthers stamped metal side kits. Only reason I never put them together is I could not afford at the time to get the Central Valley trucks that you had to have. And we got better choices now, that a little bit more reasonable. But this is pretty much that one of, they call it a standard heavyweight coach. It was actually, I forget how many were in this series. They've offered them in green with the aluminum roof, which were in a lot of use here in Texas. A purist told me that the air conditioning arrangement was a little bit different on the ones that were in Texas with the silver roofs. They had them, I think, in two-tone gray. I've got a pair I'm actually going to do in solid gray because that's typical of the late 50s. But we were hoping that they would take that, you know, the roof and the ends and the everything but the sides, come up with some different variations in Santa Fe. And they, for some reason, they had a change in focus at Walthers, and decided they were probably more interested in doing other things. Next slide, please. Now, this is something I always thought was cool about Santa Fe. Now, of course, there's always kind of a standalone thing that railroads will have that were very, very unique. And Santa Fe invested heavily in flexi bands and containerized mail. I don't think they had some heavyweight cars that were cut down and made into basically flat cars that were heavyweights from about just above truck level. And they had these containers for mail that were put on those things. I've seen pictures of them on 7 and 8. I've never seen them operate anywhere around Texas. But these are flexi bands. Santa Fe loved these things. And it's kind of an interesting kind of concept. Next slide, please. Now, a little aside on the flexi band concept. Here we see a flexi band. This is one not it. I just know that is a door on the side there. Usually the ones that were in mail service would wind up having a door on the side as well. This was something was developed by New York Central. Now, in the 1950s, New York Central was a very innovative railroad. You had all sorts of new things that nobody else had ever thought of, and they had the idea if you wind up using containerized freight, you'd have lower weight. You'd be able to get to some of the tunnels into New York. Those were always a problem. Worst problem with the flexi van concept, however, was it was New York Central, and their sworn enemy was the Pennsy, and the Pennsy wanted to do everything they could to thwart anything with the flexi vans. I mean, Pennsy was pushing their truck train. Pennsy owned more stock in what later became trailer train than anybody else, but they were trying to do everything to where this concept would not work. However, if you look over some of the Walthers offerings for the flexi vans, so far the roads they're offering all had them. And what you'd have to do is you'd wind up having essentially bogies or essentially an underframe and slide underneath it. And you'd be able to take this off the flat car and be able to deliver it. And of course, it was kind of a novel new concept here. Now, the Santa Fe did carry a lot of New York Central flexi vans. And the little thing that I was operating, I guess it was a couple of years ago out at one of our shows, it had a bunch of the New York Central flexi vans, and somebody came up and said, "What railroad are you modeling there? I mean, why are you pulling these cars with a Santa Fe?" Well, that's kind of what happened here. Next slide, please. So a lot of Santa Fe mail actually originated in Chicago, and these cars got dispersed all over the system. So we saw stuff coming down here to the Dallas and eventually down to Houston area. Yeah, it came off that kind of spine of the Santa Fe, which was their Chicago to Los Angeles main line. And I mean, that looks like that actually was originally a color photograph there because it doesn't have that funky look of that previous shot there. And y'all can recognize where that is there. If you look back, you can actually see a number of bag and express cars. Now, I forget who I stole this from on the internet, but somebody made the idea, said they mentioned unloading 15 carts of mail for delivery to the mail sorting facility in Dallas, which is probably the same one they have today. Next slide, please. Now on the Mopac, they had trains 7 and 8, and these brought a whole lot of mail to the TNP via the St. Louis Gateway. By the way, if you can ever hear Bob Barnett's talk on these Mopac mail trains at one of these meets, by all means do so. They joke about the two of us getting together at meetings and start talking about neat things we've come up with. And for some reason, we always like I guess what we call angels with dirty faces, the trains that weren't as glamorous as the others, because that's a lot of cases what we saw there. While the Santa Fe had a lot of cars coming from their Chicago Gateway, MOP had a lot of things from the St. Louis Gateway. Now, this is something you can see on the MOP and the TP that you wouldn't necessarily see on the Santa Fe. A lot of these maroon Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio cars. I found out that GM&O, that turns out they had the largest printer of catalog materials that was on their railroad. In fact, there was a friend of mine, one of these shows, said that was the printing plant that printed RMC magazine back in the 60s and 70s. So they printed big magazine, big catalog. I mean, turns out the Sears Wish books were all printed up there and went all over the country. But you get all these railroads from cars that came into St. Louis. And both the Missouri Pacific and Tex Pacific baggage and express cars would move nationwide. Next slide. Now, why would you want to model this? Well, I talked about the Santa Fe. Love the war bonnets. If you're doing steam era stuff, I kind of love the heavy 3400 series Pacifics on the Santa Fe. MOP and TP both had very attractive steam and beautiful paint jobs on the diesels until they decided to go into the austerity and all went solid blue. But that's another story for another day. Now, Athearn Genesis did TP F7As and F7Bs. Proto did the MOP PAs and E8s. Now we have these and even better models by Rapido and also have the Broadway TNP E8s. Turns out the Walthers heavyweight baggage and postal cars on off-the-shelf ACF design that was used by Missouri Pacific and others. Frisco used things that were very, very, very similar as well. Now, it turns out the Atlas single window heavyweight coach is very close to Mopac practice, whereas the TNP cars are a divided version of a paired window car that Walthers did. Now, with Walthers, if you really want to be technical, it had a singlet window and a partition. But otherwise, it's very, very similar. They're both, from what I understand, Pullman standard built cars. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of the TP cars that was actually down in front of the TNP warehouse. It had been taken out of service. It was not modified with a balloon roof or sealed ad lake or thermopane windows. And this was actually being used as a storeroom that was down at the in front of the TNP freight house in Fort Worth. And from what I understand, was there for many, many, many years. Also, I understand it was coupled right next to a steam generator car, which is another thing the TP came up with. But that's typical of what you would have seen prior to about 1958. And by 1958, they had more new cars that they could actually use. But they were still heavyweight cars, and you'd be more likely to see a heavyweight rider coach on a mail train. Next slide, please. And of course, here we see one of the MOP PAs. Now, funny thing is, I talked to an employee, and the TNP rule book said that Missouri Pacific engines of the 8,000 class are expressly prohibited from operating over TP lines between Dallas and Fort Worth. They didn't change it, but MOP renumbered everything to a 2-digit number. And you can actually see these things operating over there. And they said, well, it's not the 8,000 series. So, I guess it's okay. Yeah, TP did not like Alco or Baldwin. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the Baggage Express. It was out probably about 15 years ago. They did a pretty good job with it. This is the off-the-shelf ACF design used by a number of railroads. And of course, this was from Walther's promotional materials. I probably got a half dozen of these things. Next slide, please. And this is, I was surprised but pleasantly surprised that they came up with this particular car there. I think this one is one I'm going to wind up probably doing with some modifications as a Katy car. But again, this is an American Car and Foundry baggage car. Now, let me give you a little funny thing about baggage cars. Turns out you're required to have either a 30-foot mail compartment, a 15-foot mail compartment, or a 60-foot mail compartment. And depending on what the contract was, and I know of a couple of situations in which you would have a train that would operate into one terminal, not necessarily a back-end terminal, and they'd swap out the 60-foot full postal car for a postal baggage combine. And I was reading something with a guy posted online about one of the Frisco trains. There's some little faraway place out in the middle of Mississippi in which, well, no, this contract is for this, so we got to swap this thing out. But you'd be surprised over the amount of mail that was actually being moved here. Let's go to the next slide. All right, this is one of the TP cars. I think this is Laredo. I stole this obviously from Alarmy and did not. Friend of mine said you can actually get AI and say remove the Alarmy label on there, and I probably wasted about an hour trying to do that before I gave up. But this, I think, is down in Laredo. So this had actually wandered down one of the South Texas lines, and that's, I believe, a TP car. Next slide, please. Okay, had a little bit of problem with the cut and paste here. That is that particular car over there, the double door car, that was has been available through Walthers. It's a little bit different, has a little bit different center sill on it. This up at the top is one of the T&P Express box cars. Now, all railroads liked Express box cars because they already own the car, just put steam lines on it. And of course, a lot of cases, these Express box cars, you'd see them operating in a freight train heading back to wherever they were. The only big difference is they may have had racks for loading certain kinds of components, and they'd have the steam and signal lines on it. Of course, you also notice y'all notice where this shot of this particular box car is, don't you? Y'all recognize where that is, don't you? That's Dallas. And here you have one of the Southern Pacific. Only reason I know is that TV channel billboard shows up in some other slides there. And here you have one of the Southern Pacific economy baggages. Look at the next slide, please. Oops. Now, Fort Worth and Denver, of course, that's Burlington, Denver Road, okay? That's the main way that you can get from Denver and up where all the Hill Company railroads operated and down to here. And Burlington had an arrangement with Rock Island with their share line down to Houston. And of course, the train that everybody thinks about, really gets excited about on this line, was the Texas Zephyr. Now, toward the end, or toward the late 50s, it started carrying a whole bunch of mail and express. It did have a bunch of reconditioned heavyweights. Let's look at the next slide, please. Now, this is in Wichita Falls. And yeah, I did go ahead and I did get the Rapido E8 and took it down, played with it in the club in Denton. And Troy said, you know, that's the wrong number for down here. You need to do so-and-so. So I didn't want to be embarrassed. So I went ahead and changed the number out, and Troy's not with us anymore. So I can't show that I complied with his concerns here. And then we got to talking about, you know, supposedly Broadway Limited is going to do a Burlington shovel nose E5, but then they've been talking about that since the Paleolithic era. So I don't know what the holdup is. I will have to get one probably. But this has, you can't really see it there, but there's a whole bunch of mail and express cars there. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, why would you want to model this? Well, you just can't beat that silver paint scheme. It can trace its lineage all the way back to the Zephyrs. Of course, it's American Model Builders did a kit for one of their little homemade. Turned out Burlington, they also were told, you know, your baggage cars are junk, get rid of them. You need to have new stuff, or we won't give you a mail contract. So they went ahead to Havelock shops and built some that are streamlined appearance. And this kit was available to American Model Builders. It's my understanding the new owners of the line is going to start reintroducing these things. They had a lot of converted troop sleepers, and yeah, you can already get them from Walthers, already painted that way. And they had lots of box cars that were in storage mail. You expect to see head-in equipment off of all the other Hill Lines roads. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are surprised to find out is Burlington was actually owned by Northern Pacific and Great Northern, and you would find all sorts of stuff off of Great Northern or Northern Pacific on the Burlington. And they kind of knew who owned them. And again, and turns out their coaches are very similar to the old branch line, now Atlas single window cars. Let's look over here at the next slide there. Now, in a pinch, this train, of course, it arrived and left Dallas at odd hours, so there are not a whole lot of photographs here. It was in the dark. You can actually, in a pinch, use SD7s on it. These things had steam generators on it. Steve Goen had some pictures of basically of this thing operating outside of Wichita Falls. Is that, oh my gosh, that's on the Texas Zephyr? Well, that's actually an extra section that was running behind the main section that was mail over the holiday period. Next slide, please. Now, this is pretty easy to do with that Walthers 70-foot postal car. And I would not be surprised if Walthers or some other vendor starts doing these things in other scales. You know, Atlas is doing a lot of their passenger cars in Atlas O now, and I've seen some of the models, and they look quite good. But this is basically the same car, and of course you can plug over that. Now, of course, you know, silver paint, if you're not very good with an airbrush, you can actually, you know, please do a mask if you do this. You can actually get Tamiya primer, and then put on some, to me, a silver paint, and there you go. You can actually, oh yeah, I custom painted it. You can't get much easier than that. Next slide, please. Now this is, I actually had one of these models and dragged it out, but Atlas did these in green. They have not done them in the silver yet. I've got a couple that I'm going to do in the silver. And one of the little modifications, I'm going to change some details around, make them a little bit different here. But you can, the undecorated ones are pretty easy to make in the silver, which is, looking at the pictures from the late 50s, early 60s, that's what you would have got. Let's look at the next slide, please. Now, Southern Pacific. Now, everybody around here is familiar with the Sunset Limited. And when you say limited, think, okay, limited, that means it's, well, at one time it was a Pullman sleeper only train. But again, it was number 1 and 2 going between New Orleans and Los Angeles. But around here, we were familiar with the Sunbeam and the Hustler and the Owl. Turns out there was a lesser known train that operated between New Orleans and Los Angeles, eventually New Orleans and Houston, called the Argonaut. Yes, they actually named a train after Jason's Argonauts, okay? I always thought that was kind of cool. Now, the thing about the Argonaut, it was heavyweight. I've seen some pictures of this train leaving New Orleans by J. Parker Lamb, and it had Jeeps on it. So they weren't that proud of it. But you had all sorts of heavyweight stuff on it. And I found one shot of it right before it was annulled or canceled out in the nothingness around Del Rio. And I looked over that and said, that's a Cotton Belt American Flower car that's down here. I mean, he said, you know, don't complain. We've got you an air conditioner car. We're friendly SP. Let's look at the next slide, please. So if you want to model this, you can actually use PAs. I've got a couple of the Lifelikes. You use passenger Jeeps, FP7s. You can use Daylight or Bloody Nose. I think the Bloody Nose came on in 58. And think of the Argonaut as being mostly a heavyweight train with all sorts of head-end cars. And by 1958, it was down to just a chair and a baggage car, and it soon disappeared west of Houston. Before I was doing some refresher research, I was convinced that thing still was operating in San Antonio, but found it was no longer operating west of Houston. Next slide, please. So this is that postal car from Walthers. It's really a stand-in, but they did a darn good job on this. This is in the Southern Pacific, after the Second World War, like other railroads, began painting some of their heavyweights in a two-tone gray. And a lot of people say it's Lark scheme. Well, it's just two-tone gray because Pullman was actually using two-tone gray on its reconditioned heavyweights. Like, you know, it was the people don't understand how much stuff was really beat to pieces during the Second World War with all the hyperutilization of stuff. And of course, the thing is, this is a little bit more of a stand-in. There were certain things. Now, Southern Pacific proper did pick up some cars from all the companies that it took over. It took over some other companies, El Paso and Southwestern, that didn't always have the common standard design. I keep hearing rumors about we're going to get a much more correct version of this, which would be more in line with the SP common standard design. But, you know, I do have a couple of these, and they're fun to operate. Next slide, please. Now, they also did a heavyweight coach, and this is, I've got a couple of those things. Now, you can actually do some modifications around the doors if that really bothers you. It's my understanding that when for whatever reason, Southern Pacific would lease the Cotton Belt American Flower cars during off seasons when they were not really being used that much, and eventually wound up swapping them for some old heavyweight cars similar to this. So if you look at some of the last photographs of the Cotton Belt's passenger operations in the late 50s, you'd have one of the renumbered, relettered Southern Pacific cars, and then you'd have one of their cars down operating in South Texas. When I looked at pictures of these things, the windows were open there in some place like southwestern Arkansas. I said, yeah, it's somebody isn't keeping the air conditioning working. Let's not fix the air conditioning. Maybe these passengers will actually find some other means of transportation. Next slide, please. Now, Athearn's actually retooled the old model die casting common standard 60-foot baggage car. And I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I got the old model die casting cars and chopped them up and converted and did all these kind of cute things there. It's a 60-foot car. Most of the cars, however, were 70-foot. And there is a company, Golden Gate Models or something like that, that has it's a little bit shorter than prototype, but they've done a plastic car with that. Next slide, please. Now, since the Argonaut was eliminated west of Houston circa 58, these economy baggages never operated. Rapido is going to do that in HO and N scale, from what I understand. So next slide, please. Well, looks like that's kind of the end of it. So again, I just want to give you some little ideas on what you can do. And of course, many of the Atlas cars are being offered in O scale. Atlas is kind of spending a lot of time with both N and O, which is a good thing. And but a lot of these things are available. If you like a scratch building, obviously you can do it. Resin kits have actually come to their own. I actually have one of the Southern Car and Foundry car kits that's unassembled out in my vehicle. One of the things that's actually turning everything upside down is 3D printing. I've actually got some stuff that's 3D printed and need to do some trimming and get that. That's kind of like if you have a car that you only had maybe 4 or 5 that ever existed, that might be one of your options. And chances are there's somebody who's actually done that. Any questions? Yes.
When they converted the box cars to express cars, did they change the
A lot of cases they did. Those cars that you may or may not have seen that sometimes show up at the meets, I put those Chrysler trucks under them. And those were high-speed trucks. Of course, then they wound up outlawing them because they tended to fall apart over time. And that didn't happen until 1960s. It's just depends. But there was a big movement getting lightweight trucks, which are available. I think Proto 2000 has them in HO. I don't know who has them in N, but they were trying. Huh? Nobody. Well, nobody at this time. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody isn't forward thinking and thinking of those sorts of things. You can always ask Shelby to do you some in 3D printing. They should do that. Give them something to work on. But with box cars, I mean, it's kind of like you could actually, it was kind of a stopgap way of doing it. Of course, that mail doesn't care that's being carried in a box car, okay? It's not going to be sorted en route anyway. Any other questions? Yes.
The first time we're all aware that the mail and express left the railroads for other means of transportation. This is the first time I've heard that the Postmaster General had a brother-in-law in the truck.
That's true. That's what was in an article train one time. He had a brother. Of course, his brother did not get the contract because that would have been. But it's my understanding, this guy, I can't remember what his name was.
Got paid some way or another.
Well, he actually had a family connection involved in the trucking business. Yeah, the guy said, it's unfair. We're going to bring suit. If the ICC involved, we do as well. Yes.
Using the microphone.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So the guys online don't hear you.
Yeah. So again, what happened was it was the from what I understand, there was actually a movement to move everything over to the truck. So they were going to get the ICC involved because they said that it was railroads had gotten a monopoly on it. Yes. Well, these were actually a divided car, which means they had race type seating that were in there. But they had a number of these things. They decided that was one of the neatest things they can actually come up with because everybody else was using heavyweights. So the Cotton Belt actually had a number of these things that actually were in the late 30s, as did, say, the KCS. And they had a partition in the middle. They had 2 sets of bathrooms at either end. And they operate, and I haven't heard any complaints about the integrity of these cars. They seem to be pretty good cars. And it's my understanding that there are actually 3 or 4 that still exist, which are actually some of the northeastern roads. Things Boston, Maine, and New Haven really like those things. But the KCS and Cotton Belt cars were the ones that were down here in the Southwest. These Cotton Belt cars actually, in the off season, would actually go on to parent SP. And there's some photographs you can actually find. I want to say it's Jim Lancaster's site. And he actually has some pictures of the coach yard there in Los Angeles. You look over there, oh, those are American Flower cars. And one of the guys online was saying they would actually paint out Southern Pacific on the letterboard and put in St. Louis Southwestern, and then would repaint it again. And when they would revert back. I always liked the Cotton Belt pasture operations in that you got PAs and FP7s went into Tyler, but around here you'd more commonly see RS3s. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but you'd much more likely see the RS3s here. And I'm thinking, I would just love to have seen a PA pulling some heavyweight head-in cars and American Flower coaches there at Highland Park. That seemed a lot more elegant for Highland Park, but at least they, yes.
They did was at Addison, they split and started running a doodle from Addison to Fort Worth.
Oh, really?
And they ran a doodle bug there, and then the train actually went into Union Station from Addison. But the Fort Worth branch, everybody got off to Addison, the connection to a doodle bug over here. That's how it ended up. Then for the connection, another thing that was odd was they would come into Hodge Yard and to get the people connected to trains that came out of the TFP station, they would taxi cab them down. They actually put them in a taxi cab and drove them down to the TFP station so they connect with other trains and other lines going out.
No, it's interesting to look at that. I mean, I've got Steve Goins' book and pathetically haven't really dug through it that much. But, you know, with the Cotton Belt, if you look at the pasture operations, just about anything goes. I mean, if you like PAs, you got it. If you like pasture F units, there's the FP7. And then they had that Jeep 7 that was in daylight colors. Of course, also another fun thing about the Cotton Belt is if anybody gives you the evil eye for having a daylight painted Pullman, you can always tell them, oh, it's Cotton Belt. It's not Southern Pacific. Waiting for your apology here. Any other questions here? Yes, sir.
I've been reading in Wikipedia about something they call the Sam Houston Zephyr that came out of Galveston and would link up with the Texas Zephyr that came in from the CB&Q, and they would connect at Union Station.
Yeah, that is certainly true. And I'm gonna, one of the things I would actually refer you to is, you know, Steve Cohen has actually done some books on these BRI operations. I mean, I guess, having grown up where I grew up, I always thought about, you know, Burlington being really, really, really high end and high class. And of course, our Rock Island was a little bit, the big joke where I grew up in Louisiana, if you want to look at a train and knew you wanted to see it, you go on the Rock Island because it would be somewhere derailed or having a broken rail and you can actually go out and photograph it. This would have been in the 70s. I mean, everybody joked about them because, I mean, with the, you know, there would be a rail that had fallen over somewhere outside of Ruston, Louisiana. But that was an interesting train there. And of course, the thing is, I think it's really neat to look at some of these pasture trains in the first years of operation. I mean, immaculate, everything matches. Sad thing is, by the late 50s, they weren't matching things nearly as much. People realized they weren't making that much money off the pasture operations. And, you know, the Texas Eagles by the mid 60s looked almost like a mail train. Everything was being carried in all these essentially boxcars and head-in cars, and it kind of blew people away thinking that's not what this was in 1949. Well, this is what it is in 1963. Any other questions?
Jim, thank you very much. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, last month for the layout tour, we went to Harold Baronswick's layout and saw a great looking and operating layout. This month, we're going to John Garfield's layout. And John, you want to kind of give everybody a preview?
Okay, I know that probably 99.9% of you are modelers west of the Mississippi. I'm the odd, I'm the oddball here. I model east of the Mississippi. I model the Erie Railroad out of Buffalo, New York. So come on out, take a look at it. It features the railroad as it went from South New York State up to Buffalo. And I think you'll enjoy the whole concept of it, as well as the layout. Location is a surprise to you. So come on out.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. That's killing my ears. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the meeting. And John, I'm sure a group will head down to your house in Burleson and see a great layout. Thank you very much.